Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to walk you through my coloring process. I'll also give you some tips and advice for working with markers. I'll be working on this drawing of Sailor Mercury, and if you follow me on Instagram, you know I'm a pretty big fan of Sailor Moon. So I thought this would be a fun piece to share my process with. If you would like to see how this piece turns out, then keep on watching. And please don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of my future videos. Let's begin. I'm starting with the eyes in this illustration. I usually begin by coloring the eyes or the skin because for me personally, it helps me figure out where I'm going with the rest of the piece. But depending on whether or not you have a color scheme in mind, there's no specific place you need to start, though I do recommend working with your lightest color tones first. For example, coloring the skin before coloring dark hair or clothing over it. When coloring eyes like these, I like to bounce back between light and dark colors, and here I even added a little green reflection in the irises. After coloring the eyes, I add highlights with white acrylic paint. And a little advice. If you dirty your point with another color, you can clean the tip by coloring on a separate piece of paper like this. Now for the skin. Here I'm starting with a mid-tone and coloring over the heavily inked areas in a blotting motion, rather than dragging the point. This is to lock in the ink from the line art with the marker ink, so that it doesn't smear the lines. After that, I apply the lighter tones and gradually blend them into the mid and darker tones I already applied. I'm using Copic marker in the skin. Copic markers are my favorite markers to use. They're alcohol-based and really great to blend with. I'm coloring on smooth Bristol paper, by the way. For her lips, I'm adding the darkest tones toward the center to gradate outward into a lighter color. I often go in with orange tones for a complexion like this and color around the eyes to make them pop. And here I'm applying the shadows around the hair. Now I'm working on the hair. For her hair, I'm using Prismacolor Premier brush tip markers. I prefer Copic markers, but these are great too. They're easy to blend with, like Copic's, but they come in a more limited shade range, and unlike Copic's, they are not refillable. If you'd like me to make a video in the future about all the supplies I use, let me know in the comments section below. When coloring hair, keep in mind the shape of the strands and apply the color curving to the shape that the hair is taking. Also, keep in mind where the light is hitting and leave those areas white to render highlights. After applying the lightest tones, leaving space for highlights, I apply the mid-tones, accentuating the shape of the hair further. After the lightest color and the midtones are applied, I apply the darkest tones in the hair. After the hair is completely colored, I go in with a light green tint color to apply on top of the highlights. This is to give her hair some more depth and color. Now to render her bow and collar, I wanted a watery, impressionistic look. So instead of marker, I'm going to be using gouache paint. I'm watering it down to dilute its consistency and make it flow like watercolor. I'm blotting it with a tissue to give it a blotchy look. I want this part of the piece to look flowing and abstract. I want her bow and collar to take on the appearance of water, since Sailor Mercury fights with water. I'm incorporating different colors into the watery areas. And here I'm using the blue gouache to render water reflections around her. A few last highlights with white paint and the piece is complete. I'd like to thank my wonderful fiancé for helping me with my first video. You can check her beautiful work out at her channel, My Mangaka Life. I'll leave a link in the description box below. And here's the finished piece, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and learned some tips along the way. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to see my future videos to come. Thanks again, guys.